want to share what an incredible journey this last year has been. And all credit to these amazing student athletes. I think when you look at the last couple of years for these guys, they took a very difficult situation. And at the beginning of the year, we talked about what we wanted to do as a team and what it would take to make their dreams happen. My assistant coach, Colin Sykes, asked me if I thought that winning an NCAA championship at the end of the year would be possible, and if I thought it would happen. And I said, well, I knew it was possible, but to see what these incredible women did over the course of a year to win the conference championship and then to enter the NCAA's ranked #1 for 6 weeks, and then each day prove themselves in the heats, the semis, and finals and win the whole thing was certainly beyond my imagination. And I'm incredibly proud of them and everything they've done this year, and they earned every moment of it.
We'll open it up for questions. It's just, for all three of you guys, you put so much time, work, and effort into this. Just you've had a few days now. What's the emotions, the feelings? You see the trophy right there in front of you. You serve Maggie, we're way down. Just your thoughts on this, on winning this.
Yeah. So me and Beef are both seniors. So I think having this moment as, like, you couldn't ask for a better culmination of all the work that we've put in. And a few days later, I'm still riding the high. Like, I haven't really come down. I was re-watching the races yesterday and just like talking about it with all the teammates back at home, and sharing that with them has been really special. But yeah, it feels unreal. But at the same time, I knew when I came here as a freshman that we could do it. And this is the team that I believed that we have always been, and so it's really special, like, that we were finally able to show the work that we've put in.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with Maggie. It's kind of still pretty surreal. Something that I think is really cool that a lot of people on the team have spoke about is just like almost like the second after, crossing the finish line, I was like, okay, what's the next step now? Like, kind of just like, you get a taste, and now like hungry for even more. Like, what can we do? How can we step up even more next season? What can we do in the off season to like set us up better again for next year? Kind of like, I think a lot of people are even more together, and like even coming home, like being able to see everyone who didn't travel, and just like everyone seems so united and so like positive and just like ready and hungry, which is really cool.
I think especially, like Maggie said, we're both seniors, and I know that one of the last calls that I can remember was like, these are your last 30 strokes, and these are your last 20 strokes, and these are your last 10 strokes. And I think my last 10 strokes were the proudest ones that I've ever taken, really. I can think about how many I've taken over the 4 years, and crossing that finish line summed it up. Yeah.
Coach, yes. Question for you. On any level, anytime there's a new coach that comes in, there's an adjustment period, and it seems that the championship would be something, to hope for and to play for. But what was it that allowed you to connect so quickly and to just do what you were able to do this year to win this championship?
I think from the very beginning, the communication between, Maggie was our Commodore and then became was elected captain in the spring season. And so she was definitely my eyes and ears in the beginning, and communicated really clearly what the team was willing to do. And so I just put a plan out there and said, we're going to have to train this way. Certainly the training is a big part of it. But I think the other key elements were trust, obviously, teamwork, and toughness. And even in the fall, when we went down to Head of the American, which is the first kind of look at the rest of the Pac-12, and we won. And we won with mixed lineups. So that was kind of a surprise, but I was like, okay, these kids, they understand how to step up. Winter gets hard. You know, some of the training then is pretty brutal. And they just kept hitting every single benchmark. But the real test is when you open in the spring season. So we opened against Ohio State, who was, they'd won the national championship in the varsity 8. They'd won 3 national championships in the years prior as a team. And then Michigan, who was highly ranked, and Virginia, who was always in the top 5. And we swept them all. So I felt pretty good about things then. And then with each race in the season, we just got better and better and better. And the real testament, I think, to this group of women was the number of people who moved from one boat to another. I mean, there was constant movement. We had 24 really great people, and it was just really a matter of trying to figure out which combinations were going to make the whole squad go as fast as possible. And we asked them to trust us, and I felt like they did. I really felt like I had great cooperation the whole way, and it enabled us as coaches to freely really put these guys in situations to test them, and every time they delivered. And when we got to the Pac-12 championships, the Novice 8 kicked off the day by winning, and that was amazing. The 3v8 avenged their loss to Cal from the duel, and then boom, 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 the next thing you know, we had a sweep at the Pac-12s. And then I was like, we're in a good place going into the NCAAs. And even still, it's not a given, because there are a whole bunch of teams that you haven't raced yet when you go in there. But I really felt that it was very clear from top to bottom of the team that these guys were willing to take risks. And they did. And the rest is history.
That, Mike, can you, for people outside the rowing world, everybody inside the rowing world knows how huge this is, how big this is, how hard this is for all your boats to do what you did. But just put this in perspective for everybody, how rare and special this is.
Yeah, the article the other day from Matt Calkins called it the Triple Crown, which is kind of crazy because Seattle Slough won the Triple Crown in 1977, and you know, for this to be the Triple Crown of rowing, I hadn't seen it referred to that in the past. But on Saturday, people around the boatyard, some of our coaches from other teams started saying things. You know, like one guy, John Murphy from Brown, goes, "Finish the job." You know, it's kind of cool because it's like they were cheering for us because they knew it was possible and it had never been done for one team to sweep all 3. And then Kevin Sauer from UVA is like, "You're going to make history tomorrow." And I said, "Don't talk to me." You know, I turned and walked away. We never talked about it as a team. We really just were focused on each boat having their best race. So looking back at it, you know, the 4, I mean, those guys just really crushed that race. They sprinted at 34 beats a minute, which was lower than base rate for most of the teams on the course. So that was really awesome. Then the 2v8 goes out, and when they lengthened to base, it was like they were just firing bullets, you know, spraying the field, and they shot out into open water, and that was amazing. And then we knew in the 1v8 that was probably going to be the most challenging race. And Stanford, you know, like I know those kids because I coached them, and they had done a great job in their heat, so we knew they were going to pose a real challenge. And I think everybody, coaches around the country, you know, maybe the world, were holding their breath on that one. And that was really amazing because when our 8 held off that massive press from Stanford in the last 500 meters, and you saw the counter, and then you saw everybody decide, you know, we're claiming this thing. I think, to me, it was just such an amazing team effort from all 3 boats. That's what went through my head. I was just so happy for each and every one of the boats. And then everyone's like, Triple Crown. Well, you know, everyone's like, sweep, sweep, and I think that was just the icing on the cake, honestly.
Maggie, since you're captain, describe what it's like to be in a boat full of badasses.
Yeah.
Oh, man. That's a secret feeling that you only get if you're in the boat. Well, what's it like to be in a boat full of badasses? It's badass. It is like, before our races at the finals, one thing that I think was really cool about this whole season that Yaz just talked about is we never talked about being the number 1 seed. We never talked about sweeping. We never talked about winning the NCAAs, really. We talked about how fast we could make our boats go and like how much we could push each other. And I think that focus on ourselves just really set us up to do what we did. And before every race, we really talked about in our race plan that settle. The point when you come from your start and your high strokes and you settle into your base. And it's like some of the 3 best strokes in the race because the boat just lengthens out and you can feel the boat running really quickly underneath you, and just to feel everyone's legs just lock in and push behind you is undescribable. And like we talked about making that settle be a promise to each other that we were going to push really hard, set the pace for the race, and win every stroke. And so to do something like that with a group of women that I've believed in for 4 years, it is like the peak of my life thus far.
So I guess another question for the athletes, and we can start with Maddie again. Can you guys point to anything as like a specific difference this year as opposed from last year? You guys finished. Yeah.
First of all, we won. No, I'm just kidding. But I think the huge difference for us was, Yaz came in, and I think we were just so hungry. We were like willing to do whatever. And so we really just threw ourselves into this training plan that she gave us that was like quite different than anything we'd ever done before. And I think we just spent a lot more time rowing, so I think we got better at it.
I think also like just the standard of our daily work was elevated. I think people just, kind of were more about wake up, go to the boathouse, do the work, do it the right way, do it well, and kind of have that focus be so singular to just today's practice or just this piece of this workout, and making each thing like as good and perfect and executed correctly as possible, and not thinking forward too much or worrying about what's the next piece or what's the workout the next day, just kind of taking everything as let's make this moment as good as possible and then move on from there, I think was one of the biggest shifts in mentality for sure.
I would definitely have to say like our willingness to put in all of the work. I remember we've had this is definitely volume mentally. This is the hardest work that this team has ever been put through. We had some workouts that we would consider strictly winter workouts, some of the longer pieces in the middle of the spring season, and I just remember thinking, thank you for giving us another opportunity to kind of put all of our fitness on display for you, because it was definitely building even through the spring season, our fitness, so our willingness. Yeah.
Elise, you guys have been through a lot of coaching change, and most sports programs would say that when there's a coaching change, there's a fall off, just because of all the transitions we become, uncertain. Why did that happen?
I don't know. I think we kind of united a lot as just a team as a whole. I think everyone kind of took the transition or the shift as a moment to seize rather than kind of react to. Yeah, I don't know. I think that was the biggest reason why the so-said fallout didn't occur. Yeah, I don't know. It just was very much like our team is very, when something turbulent happens, everyone comes together. You know, there's not a spread out, and there's not an individual, you know, out on their own in a bad situation or whatever. It's very like, if there's any turbulence, it's everyone comes together and everyone's, you know, trying to pick each other up and help each other, and what can I do for you? How's your day going? You know, so I think that was the biggest factor. I mean, I also think like we were blessed with following the turbulence, an amazing coach of Yaz to kind of help guide us through that. And yeah, I think she also helped like implement things that helped unite us more and help have more communication between coaching and athletes, and just in general, yeah, unity, I think, for sure.
I think it really was our trust in the program. These girls these are some of the strongest people I know that I will ever have the honor to surround myself with. I think it is the banding together that carried us through. And it's also just our dedication to this program. Like, we believed in it. That's why we came here. That's why we're still here, fighting for our program.
As this program had success in the past, it's obviously growing people from international backgrounds. What made this for you work? Why was this place your choice to go to from a very successful program?
Well, I think the student athletes convinced me I should come, to be honest. You know, I met with them, and I felt like they were people I would really enjoy coaching. And their desire was evident, and they promised to work hard, and they promised to be good teammates, and they delivered on every promise. Along the lines of some of the questions you just asked the girls, I think that one of the things they do so well is recognize when there is an opportunity to be seized. And we kind of operate with a mindset of it's all about possibility. You know, it's not so much about what we're doing wrong as much as what can we do better. And if we do it together, our chances of success are much greater. And so I really think that their positive outlook and mindset was absolutely integral to us being able to make the improvements that we needed to make to win in the end. A lot of people are talking about the depth of our team, and I think that maybe other teams are under this illusion that we have this team that, you know, on the rowing machine that's got these massive scores that are bigger than other teams in the league, and that's not true. I think it was the heart that drove this team, and their willingness to be great teammates and understand the importance of every single person, and that if we approached each of the championships that way, we were going to get a great team result. And, you know, what a dream ending. I couldn't have imagined it, and they made it happen.
Coach, this is from the weather department, not the sports department, this question. One of the worst winters in the history of Washington. It rained for like 90 straight days. Do you think when you look back, that history, getting up at 5, the rain, you think this made them a tougher team?
Well, so first off, we all came in from outside, right? So Colin Sykes knew because he's lived here for a long time. Josh Gotro came in from UVA. Melissa Ongen came from Michigan. I came from California, but I grew up in Wisconsin. So none of us knew what was a bad Seattle winter, right? So all winter long, everyone's going, oh, and Haley Yeager is here, and she's like, yeah, it's pretty bad, but it doesn't seem that bad. So, but none of us had an idea of what was a terrible Seattle winter. So everyone's like, oh, I'm really sorry. This winter was so terrible. And at the end of it, we all came out of it and said, well, if that was the worst Seattle winter, then it's only going to be better looking forward. So no complaints from me. I loved it. I thought that, what's awesome about this place? I mean, it is Rowtown, USA. And the University of Washington is rowing you. And when you shove off the dock of Conabear, on any given day, there's like 5 awesome places you can row, between all of the Lake Washington, Lake Union, Portage Bay, go into the locks, and we can row year round. So it doesn't matter if it's raining or if it's blowing or whatever, we're going to be out there. So look for us, because we don't care if it's raining. We're loving being on the water here in Seattle.
With that, for each of the athletes, and this is such a historic program. I mean, just top to bottom, you have names of championship winners on boats. 20, 30 years, I know it's a long ways away, but I mean, to look at what you've done here, a piece of rowing history, it's going to be hard to top this. Maybe you guys do it again next year, I don't know.
Oh, yeah.
Being there, I guess, Meg, to be a part of it, doing something unreal.
Yeah, I think that when we talk about like the transition and our why, I think a huge part of it for the entire team is the legacy of Washington rowing. And we have these alumni brunches, and you have women from the 70s and the 80s who are like these badass, like they came here when people were throwing food at them, and like they didn't have like spandex rowing clothes, and like they still came down here and they rowed every day and they won national championships. And so I think like whenever we hit turbulence, it's like we know, like we believe that we can do it because they've done it before, and like they rowed out of this boathouse and they rowed on this water, and like so are we, and that's like a big part of our heart. And so I think a huge part of why I like feel emotional and like felt so happy with what we did on Sunday was because I felt like I honored like all the work of these women who have come before me. Just like, and it feels like not even enough, with how much they've done. And so I'm really glad that we carved our name in the Hall of Fame this year. But I'm looking forward to really seeing what the girls do next year, because like if we were hungry this year, like we're hungrier now.
Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty like mind-blowing to think like maybe girls will be thinking about us, 30, 40 years from now, like how we are about the women from the 70s and the 80s. I think one of the best things about the sport of rowing is there's always going to be something to be better at. There's always going to be, you can have a faster time. There's always going to be someone faster than you. There's always going to be another goal to reach for. You can never really be satisfied, which also kind of is like the taxing part of it, but it's awesome. And so I think it's really exciting going into next year, because if, this is what we've achieved in our first year of training with Yaz and with this new team culture, like what is another step that we can take from here on? Yeah.
I would say that the legacy and for the women coming after us, we have these boxing gloves, yeah, and they have names from I don't even know how many years ago, but it's from hard work on the erg, and I remember receiving them and getting handed the marker and looking at all the names on these, and you've got all the sisters before you, and then you've got some Olympians there, and I'm just like, my hands shaking, signing my name. I'm just like, are you sure these are for me? Like, it's an incredible feeling to be a part of the girls that have gone through here and gone on to even greater things, and I'm so incredibly happy to leave it, knowing that the girls have so much to look forward to.
One of the things that we talked about a lot was the year of the sevens. And the sevens there's a crazy history with the sevens. at Washington. It goes all the way back to 1907, which was Hiram Conaber's first year. 1917, this one's wild, was the year that they stopped women's rowing because they deemed it too strenuous, even though they were gauging them mostly on form and their outfits. Okay, and then it didn't reemerge until 1969. In modern times, 77. Oh, then 1937, the boys in the boat came back after winning the Olympic gold medal and swept the IRA National Championship. Then 1977, the guys won the Grand Challenge Cup at Henley, and now the women come into play. So that was the third year of women's rowing at Washington. 1987, that women's squad went undefeated and swept the national championship. And 1997 was the first year of the NCAAs, and the Washington women won that, and the men won the IRA. And then 2007, the guys won the IRA, and now here we are in 2017 with the NCAA sweep. Hope I got all of them, but it's kind of crazy. And I know Elise in the 8, you guys actually made a call for the 7s, I think.
Yeah. I think we actually did in multiple races, but yeah, it kind of was a cool fuel that we had, based off of the whole legacy that we knew about, and kind of going off of just the idea of like, why not us? We're at the start line, we have an opportunity, and coincidentally, it's 2017. Like just another reason to seize it and take it. Yeah.
You don't have to wait 10 years now.
No.
Yeah, right. No, we are not. That was just to get it all going.
Yeah.
Not taking that 9 years off.
No.
Yes, when you looked at this program from the outside as a rival, how did you see it?
When I was in college, I went to the other UW, so I went to Wisconsin. And back in the 80s, Washington was known, as this incredible team. I was on the other side of the result in 1987 rowing for Wisconsin, so I know how great that whole squad was. I think this program's always been admired for women and men, but on the women's team, I can tell you, even back in the 80s, we just thought this place was always cutting edge. We always felt like the women worked hard. I have a lot of friends from that era because I was in national team camp with them. Many of them live in Seattle to this day and are still my friends. But I think that the program's always been well regarded, and then to be able to come in here and be able to lead it, it really is a dream opportunity. To me, this is the finest rowing university in the world, in addition to being an amazing academic institution. And I really want to say thank you to Jen Cohen for hiring me. I just think that she is an amazing leader and one of the best athletic directors in the country. And our sport administrator is Erin O'Connell, who was the president of U.S. Rowing, and she was a coxswain here at UW in the 90s. So, it's a dream team of women leading this place, and they're deeply invested in rowing, and they're deeply invested in women's rowing, and for that I am eternally grateful.